Hey, what is up mortals? It is TCCrew here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 20 of What If Deku Was a Saiyan. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. If you haven't watched parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, watch those parts first before this one, or even if you need a refresher, there will be a link in the description below of all the parts. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the video. As Chisaki removed his glove, Eri tried to jump out of Midoriya's arms. However, he held onto her, tighter than ever. She was almost crying, about to scream, but she looked into the eyes of her savior. They were filled with determination. "Please let me go! I don't want him to hurt you!" she shrieked, her eyes starting to water.
"Hey-chan, it's all going to be okay. You know why?"
Midoriya asked. He looked back into her eyes with a smile.
"Because we're here!"
Mirio finished. They both glanced at each other. Mirio took Eri out of Midoriya's arms and carried her himself. He then used his cape to wrap around the girl. Eri then put her head on his chest, hiding her face from the Yakuza.
"You're safe with us, but if anything happens to us, please run away and get help. Say that you need Sir Night-Eye to help you, and say that Lemillion and Deku are in danger,"
Mirio added as he kept her warm. She took her face from his chest and stared at Mirio's face. His smile comforted her as he then looked back towards Chisaki and showed his heroic nature as his demeanor changed. She saw the two strangers face off against the ultimate evil that she had experienced.
"You heroes just couldn't keep your nosy selves out of my business, out of my empire. Since both of you are young heroes, I'll let you have one last opportunity to turn around. Forget all about this and not suffer a horrific death by my hands,"
threatened Chisaki as he disintegrated his other glove. Mirio was slightly shaken from this. He put Eri aside and kept her as far away from Chisaki. Should they call backup and wait for help? He turned to his underclassmen. He could tell that getting reinforcements was futile. If he left, Midoriya would fight him alone and possibly kill him. He surveyed his surroundings. A narrow hallway, a small run into the main street, and a door slightly ahead. This must be one of the side entrances to their hideout, Mirio thought. As he was trying to put his plan into action, Midoriya spoke up.
"There's no way we can forget about what we've seen today. If we turn around now, are we true heroes or just a pair of cowards?"
He spoke triumphantly, getting into a fighting pose. Chisaki let out a sigh and bowed his head slightly, bending down to his shoes.
"Suit yourselves."
Suddenly, the floor broke apart. Mirio managed to put her away from the hole and keep her from harm's way. They kept falling until they landed and ended up in a white tunnel. Both heroes looked ahead and saw Chisaki.
"Eri, I know this is really difficult, but please, run!"
Mirio shouted. He gazed upwards and saw a small nod from Eri as she disappeared. He returned his attention to Chisaki. He started walking towards the heroes. Mirio activated One for All around his body.
"One for all, 20%!
He faced his underclassmen. Midoriya then activated his base form as a white aura expanded around him. He then levitated slightly off the ground. Mirio would act slightly excited and praise his junior, but now wasn't the time. Their only focus should be the villain at hand.
"What's the plan, Deku?"
Mirio asked Midoriya, trying to prepare to fight.
"I'm not sure what type of quirk he has, but he has something to do with destroying with just a touch of his hand. That much is evident from him destroying his glove, as well as destroying the floor of the alleyway. Our best bet is to not let him touch you. If he does, it's game over. I'll try to attack him from above, send out some blasts while you use your special techniques, like when we fought. However, this time, don't hold back for a second,"
Midoriya asserted. Mirio was impressed, and Midoriya could tell that he was holding back when they last fought until he transformed. Midoriya charged up a little key blast to conserve as well as to test what his abilities were. He fired the ball of energy. It wasn't as fast or as strong as it could be, but because of how dense it was, it packed quite a punch. As it approached, Chisaki crouched down again and placed his hand on the floor. A wide concrete pillar rose up from the floor and blocked the ball. Both Midoriya and Mirio were shocked as they didn't know about this side of Chizuki's quirk.
Looks like he can disassemble and reassemble whatever he touches. Maybe he can do the same to humans. You have an advantage with your intangible quirk. I'll keep ranged attacks while you rush him. I'll try and cover your back with my blasts, but if you need to switch out, let me know.
Midoriya conferred with Mirio. Deku, Sir Night-Eye is gonna give you a lot of trouble once we're done with this. But keep your hopes up. Hopefully he won't torture you. Mirio smirked. Suddenly Mirio ran straight toward Chizuki and went for a roundhouse kick. Chizuki lifted his hand to counter an attack.
Such an open move. What do you hope you hit if your leg is...
Chizuki thought until a big white boot hit him in his jaw.
What? I thought I managed to get him. What did he do? Did he dodge my attack? No, he couldn't have. He was full of openings. It must be his quirk,
he deduced. Mirio followed up with another kick, rotating his body fully to maximize his momentum. Chizuki then lifted both of his hands and tried to grab Mirio's body. As he reached, Mirio activated his quirk all around his body except for his foot. The villain's hands traveled straight through the hero's body. Chizuki's face was shocked as he received yet another kick to his face. Mirio then landed and ran back a few steps. A blue light cut through the air and hit Chizuki straight in his chest. It lifted him off the ground and burned some of the clothes he was wearing, leaving a sizable hole right in the middle of them. He lifted his eyes and narrowed them.
Why do heroes always have to be so annoying?
Chizuki said, venom coming through from every word he said. Midoriya was slightly taken aback. Chizuki got hit with one of his key blasts, and it seemed as if it just bothered him.
One does close fighting while the other sits back and covers. You really think some student-like strategy would work on me? And to show you the errors of your ways, I'll just say that your guard is down.
Chizuki stuck his hand to the wall next to him and completely destroyed the tunnel. Mirio lost his footing and fell while Midoriya was hovering, trying to dodge all the debris around him. Mirio activated his quirk and managed to propel himself through each of the falling rocks to backtrack towards his ally.
I got near enough for a few solid hits, but it seems as though he has figured out my quirk. We've lost the element of surprise.
Mirio spoke as he now stood on top of the fallen debris.
Then I guess it's time to stop holding back.
Midoriya responded, his eyes slowly changing color. The ki that surrounded him exploded outwards. It turned yellow, as so did his hair. The air around him got denser and hotter. Chizuki wiped a small bead of sweat from his head due to the immense heat Midoriya was now exerting. His now spiky blonde hair stood up, part of his costume tearing slightly. Chizuki wondered why he looked so different, but thought it was some type of transformation quirk. His attention then turned back to Mirio. It seemed as though his aura was also expanding slightly. Lightning started to expel out of him as a bright energy rose up from his legs all the way up to his head.
One for all, Phantom Phase!
Mirio shouted, readying his battle pose.
Deku, let's show him our Plus Ultra!
His voice was more serious than Midoriya has ever heard before. He knew that the first time they fought, he was holding back his true potential. From that point on, it was going to be a fight for survival. Straight away, Midoriya rushed Chizuki. Mirio observed him as he attacked, but lost sight of him almost immediately, and the loud wind whistles from their earlier fight rang through the now destroyed tunnel. Mirio noticed that the tunnel was now an open area, almost like the training grounds of their first bout with Class 1A. This wasn't a good environment for Mirio's permeation quirk, since his only possible surface can be the floor, but this was Midoriya's best possible scenario for a fight. Although he couldn't see his junior, the pressure that was emanating from him was debilitating. He tried to move forwards, but a bubble of pure heat stopped him. Midoriya wanted to test the abilities of his foe, and so he decided to trick him, but push his speed limits and distract him. He halted his movements right in front of Chizuki. He charged up a small beam of energy before he could even move and hit him again in the chest. But that's what he thought happened. It turned out that he created a small barrier in time it took him to charge up his attack and block the blast. Chizuki then burst through the concrete barrier and almost touched Midoriya. He instead managed to touch a piece of fabric that fell off his costume and reduced it to nothing. Midoriya now knew what type of villain he was combating. He had to be smarter and try to push his limits even further. He was close to the ceiling of his ultimate mode at that moment, but he could sense that there was something more to it. something attainable. He charged up again and went for a much more aggressive attack. Midoriya once again whizzed around the area, this time through the air, and managed to get a solid hit on Chizuki. His mask was now in tatters as his face only showed more and more anger. His eyes were filled only with his intent to kill and retrieve Eri. He tightened whatever was left of his mask to his face. He now looked more horrifying than any enemy both heroes had fought before. Mirio then charged himself. He couldn't keep up with Midoriya even in his phantom phase, but he knew that Midoriya would work around his slower ally rather than just blindly attack. He fell into the ground and rose up behind Chizuki. Falling again towards the ground, he landed and jumped straight to the villain. He activated his quirk once again, but fully around his body so he could deceive Chizuki into solidly attacking him and leaving himself vulnerable. Midoriya took this opportunity to counter and double hammer punch him in the back of his head, slamming the villain into the ground. Mirio then tackled Midoriya away, making sure he wasn't within his enemy's reach. Both fell a few meters away from the downed villain, but they both knew he was a different type of criminal. He used his quirk to raise himself off the ground.
You heroes are such a pain! You need to learn your place in the world, and not stick being society's crutch and not its saviors!
Chizuki shouted with pure hatred. Midoriya and Mirio felt their spines shiver as Chizuki put both his hands into the ground. A pillar flew from the ground and lifted himself higher than the two heroes. The ceiling got blown out as natural light seeped in. Spikes then appeared from the pillar and remained in a defensive position. The concrete lost its rigidness and flowed like water. The spikes sent multiple attacks towards both heroes. They kept dodging and dodging until Midoriya got hit with a spike across the ankle and Mirio got stabbed through his arm and his leg. He somehow was still able to move, but his mobility was impaired. He managed to hide behind some debris and Midoriya retreated back to him. Both then recuperated slightly and got ready for the next phase of the battle.
Deku, this seems to be some type of tower defense. We need to take care of those tentacle-like things to get close to him. I could rush into the pillar, but I don't think I'll reach the top until I run out of breath. You can fly, but he'll be prepared for you. What do you think?
Mirio conferred with his underclassman. He turned to see him mumble and not take notice that Mirio was trying to talk to him. Mirio shouted this time.
We'll sort this out later. Deku! Focus on the task at hand. I know you're coming up with multiple plans, but we need a surefire one. I got it!
Midoriya shouted back. Mirio was a little confused with his thought process, but conceded. Midoriya pulled Mirio in and started to explain his idea. They both stood up and returned to their base forms. Chizuki felt restless, as to him it looked like they weren't taking him seriously enough. Launching his defenses out, he noticed that they weren't on the floor anymore. He lost sight of them as he lowered his hand onto the concrete pillar. Chizuki couldn't find them. He couldn't even feel the large energy source from the green hero. However, he heard the wind whistle once more and prepared for another assault. Suddenly he felt an impact on his back. He turned and no one was there. He then felt the immense heat again, as well as the electrifying sound of the lightning. Chizuki could at least follow it and caught a yellow flash going right through his field of view. Midoriya was lifting Mirio around and bouncing from spike to approach the villain. Once he noticed this, he retracted his spikes and assembled all of them around himself. He then sent them towards the heroes. Midoriya then resorted to flying to save both Mirio and himself, which reduced his speed dramatically. But he had a backup to this. He started to swing around in circles and launch Mirio towards Chizuki. He thought that Midoriya was going to attack again, using Mirio as a fake, but he was wrong. Mirio cannonballed into Chizuki, knocking him off balance, which set up Mirio for his ultimate blast attack.
Tokyo Blast!
He shouted at the top of his voice. Due to his increased abilities and power, the blast decimated the pillar and leveled it completely. It looked as though they had won the battle. Both landed hard on the ground and stood up slowly, recovering from their injuries.
Mirio-senpai!
Midoriya shouted.
Are you okay? Are you safe?
Yeah, I'm okay, just a little battered, bruised, and bleeding, but I've suffered more before. Mirio reassured Midoriya.
And use our hero names, we're in public.
Mirio slightly smacked Midoriya in the head. He then wrapped his arm around his junior's shoulder and used him for support. You know, that was a really good plan. Really surprised that it worked. Pretty much used me as a bullet. You better tell everyone that I was the reason we won. Mirio chuckled. Midoriya replied with only a small nod and a smile. He then started to fly up slightly until he felt some type of resistance and an abrupt force. He looked to Mirio. Blood was spilling out of his mouth. He still held a smile. Midoriya was absolutely shocked. His face showed pure despair. He glanced down and saw one of the concrete spikes through Mirio's abdomen. He was tossed aside as his grip on Midoriya loosened. Midoriya landed on the ground and faced his adversary. Shizuki was again standing up with a sickly smile plastered on his face. "Show me your true side, hero! No one shows their true nature until they're pushed beyond their mental limits." Shizuki spat as his eyes narrowed. Midoriya was broken. He couldn't move his body. He turned as he saw his friend's lifeless, limp body a few meters away from him. "Looks like you aren't truly meant to save people. You couldn't even protect your partner. Now accept your fate and perish!" He lowered his head. Shizuki growled. A large spike swooped in and attacked Midoriya. However, the spike was stopped dead in its tracks. Midoriya powered up just before the spike hit him, but his energy and aura was heavier. Shizuki sent another spike from the opposite direction. Suddenly, the aura around him exploded outwards as he clenched his fists and shouted at the very top of his voice. Shizuki knew that this was Midoriya's last strand of strength. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in the story thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, we've got a second channel called Anime Deep Dive. Anime Deep Dive goes deep into the facts and lore of a wide variety of anime. It's sure to expand your weeb knowledge for all kinds of series, guaranteed. On top of that, we have a third channel called We Discuss Naruto What Ifs. It's what we do on this channel already, but in the vast world and lore of Naruto. Go check it out if you're in the mood for some jutsu action. Secondly, on behalf of We Discuss, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We Discuss, then I would like to extend out an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being we only accept members 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. Our Discord is an all-around fantastic place to be. Whether you're a fan or looking to join our band of misfits, we're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video, so thank you all for watching and have a great day.